One of the craziest things that I was taught growing up, I was taught that if a woman showed a lot of skin, then she deserves to be disrespected, she deserves to be physically assaulted, and she deserves to be raped if she shows a lot of skin. I do not believe that. And I also have a personal experience that proves that this way of thinking is bad, dangerous, and false. So when I was a 19-year-old kid, this is a long time ago, right now I'm in my 40s, but back when I was 19 years old, I was using the city bus to take classes. I was taking classes at a community college. And I was wearing regular clothes. I was wearing a red t-shirt and blue jean pants. I was very skinny. The red t-shirt was a little bit too big for me. My blue jean pants were a little bit too big for me. And I was wearing tennis shoes. I was dressed up like a normal person. So my red shirt, it had the word Chicago's right across my chest. It had the word Chicago. So I'm riding the city bus, I'm wearing regular clothes, and a stupid older man, he saw the word Chicago on my shirt, it's right across my breast, and so he wanted to touch it. He said, "Oh, you like Chicago? I like Chicago too." And then he reaches out his hands and he's about to touch my breast. So what I do is I jump back and I gave him a very mean look. Because I was pissed off. I was pissed. I did not want him to touch me at all. I didn't know him. And then he realized that he was an asshole. And then he said, sorry. And then he looked around, because there was other people on the bus too. So he was looking around and he told me sorry. And it was probably because he was aware of the other people on the bus. But I was still angry. But here's the point. The point I'm making, that I was wearing regular clothes. I was dressed up like everybody else. A t-shirt and blue jean pants, okay? They were not too tight. They were a little bit too big. I was skinny. A t-shirt and blue jean pants, wearing regular clothes. And he thought that he had the right to touch me until I jumped back and gave him a crazy, dark, angry facial expression, a very angry facial expression. And he realized that I knew that he was full of shit. So that's the point I'm trying to make. No matter how a woman is dressed, nobody has the right to sexually assault her, to rape her, or to inappropriately touch her without her consent. No matter how a woman is dressed. Same thing for men. No matter how a man is dressed, you don't have a right to touch him. If a person is outside naked, you don't have a right to touch the person, no matter what they're wearing, no matter what they're not wearing. Nobody has a right to physically assault anybody. That's the point I'm trying to make. And there's also a museum out there, and it's a modesty museum. And it's not a modesty museum. It's a museum that shows that when some people, when they wear modest clothes, sometimes they still get physically attacked. So at this museum, it shows what people was wearing. There's clothes on the wall, regular clothes. Some of the clothes are Amish clothes. Some of the clothes are sweatpants and a sweatshirt. Now, we know what sweatpants and sweatshirts are. They're clothes that they're usually oversized. It's usually thick material. There's nothing sexy about it. It's like a casual wear. And so people were wearing regular clothes. Women were wearing regular dresses, long dresses, and they were telling the stories that they got physically assaulted even though they were wearing modest clothes and normal clothes. So it's a museum, and it proves my point. No matter what you're wearing, if an idiot thinks that they could touch you without your consent, it's not the woman's fault, it's the pervert's fault, okay? It's the pervert's fault. I just wanted to make that point very clear. The next bad thing that I was taught I was taught to never be happy for a woman who has a baby outside of marriage. That was what I was taught when I was little. Now, when I got older, I realized that it's none of my business how a woman has her baby, whether she's married or not married. It's not my business. So my mom told me to not be happy for a woman who had a baby outside of marriage. And this was when I was about 6 years old, and she was helping a woman who had a baby. This woman was pregnant outside of marriage. And I was a little 6-year-old kid, and I was happy for the woman. And I said, I want to tell her congratulations. And I started dancing. And I was like, yay, she's having a baby. I'm happy for her. And my mom said, don't be happy for her because she's not married. You cannot be happy for her. And I was like, oh, okay. And then my big brother made fun of me for dancing because I wanted to congratulate the woman. And my mom said, no, you can't do that. But when I got older, I threw out that way of thinking because I met so many people who have had children outside of marriage. And you know what I tell them? I tell them congratulations, because the child is a child. The baby is a baby. Every baby deserves love and care and nourishment. So I do not judge people who have babies outside of marriage. I don't do that. I was taught to do that. I don't do that. That's a bad way to think. My third thing that I was taught that was really bad, it was from 1 Corinthians chapter 14:35. And this is a passage in the Bible that I disagree with. And I disagree with it because it was written by man and there's no proof that any God was involved. So in 1 Corinthians 14:35, it says that it is a shame for a woman to speak in church. In some other Bibles, it says that it is a shame for a woman to speak during church meetings. And I used to believe this when I first read it. I used to believe that women should be silent in church. And I used to believe that it is wrong for a woman to be a pastor because of these scripture verses. But when I got older, I realized, where is the proof that God said it? Man said it. The man who lived thousands of years ago said it. This is probably written 2,000 years ago. And so the men who lived in the old days and ancient days, they did not think much of women. But since they felt that way, that doesn't mean that we should feel that way today. So, and I was also taught that men were more important than women. This is back when I was into religion. But when I got older, I realized that that is not a good way to think, and I disagree with that way of thinking. There is no scientific proof to support that belief, so I don't believe in that. So it's good for me not to believe that way of thinking. And then another thing that I was taught growing up when I was little, I was taught that it was a sin to be gay. Now, I was also homeschooled. So in our basement, while I was being homeschooled, my parents taught us, it was 5 kids, and I'm the middle child, 5 kids, and we were all straight. But my Christian parents taught us that it was a sin to be gay, and that it was bad, and it was evil, and it was wicked. And I'm thinking, also I was proud of myself for being straight. I'm still straight, and I was like, well, I'm straight. I don't have to worry about this, And so I was taught to look down on people who were gay. But when I went to community college and got out of my parents' house, I realized that it's okay to be gay, because I met gay people and I realized that they were not doing nothing to me, and there was no point in me hating them. And I grew up in a Christianity where, the Christians who were over me, they always wanted to judge other people. But when I became older and when I got a mind of my own, I realized that I'm the type of person who likes to mind her own business. So when I got out of my parents' house and I realized that a lot of gay people are just fine. A lot of them are nice. They're just people. They just have a different sexual orientation than I have. And that's okay. It's okay to have a different sexual orientation. I just need to mind my own business. And that's what I decided. I decided to mind my own business. And today I say it's okay to be gay. It is okay to be gay. Just as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's okay to be gay. Same thing about being straight. It's okay to be straight. Just as long as you're not hurting anybody, it's okay. So anyways, we have a lot of hypocrisy in this area. I just want you to know that when you meet a Christian who is loudly preaching against gay people, that means that they have a problem of their own. Okay, so we all know at this point I'm straight, so I don't go out and teach sermons about how wrong it is to be gay. I never did that even when I was a Christian, because I didn't care, because I was worried about myself and minding my own business. But when you see a Christian going out in public speaking against gay people, that means they have internal desires to be gay themselves in the inside. Okay, so for example, Mike Johnson, he's the Speaker of the House, and he was on Grindr. Yes, he was. He was secretly on Grindr, and he was looking up some stuff, and so he's a super duper Christian, but he has some internal issues of his own. I'm not judging him, but I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. There's another man who's a part of the MAGA crowd. His name is Mike Waltz. And Mike Waltz, he was on a gay website. And this is public information. I'm not gossiping. This is public information. So Mike Waltz, he was on a gay website because he had desires. He's a man and he had desires for other men. But he likes to vote against the LGBTQ community. So why would he vote against the LGBTQ community but be secretly gay himself? Because his religion is not allowing him to be himself. That's why. So again, when you hear Christians speaking out against the LGBTQ community, that means in the inside, they're secretly gay and they hate that part about themselves. And so they like to preach against it to convince themselves not to be a part of the LGBTQ community, but they frustrate themselves because they don't get to be their true selves, and they are also jealous of the LGBTQ community because they get to be themselves and the hypocrites don't get to be themselves. So that's that. Another thing that I was taught that was wrong, I was taught that if you don't believe my Pacific version of Christianity, then you will go to hell. That's what I was taught. If you don't believe in my religion, then you will go to hell. That's what I was taught. Now, where is the proof of hell? Did anybody ever die and went to hell and then came back to life to tell us? We cannot prove that ever happened. We can't prove it, okay? We cannot prove heaven either. Did anybody ever die and went to heaven and came back to life to tell us about heaven? No. Did anybody ever die and they were like dead for a couple of days and they crawled out of the graveyard and told us about the afterlife? No. So I'm saying that death is a mystery. And if anybody says, I know what happens when you die, they're lying. They need to provide more evidence for it. They need to provide more evidence. Okay? So here's another thing that I was taught that I believe is wrong, because I know it's wrong. I was taught this idea that men are over woman and man should rule over woman, and a woman should never be the head over her own house, even if she's single. So This is called the Stay-at-Home Daughter Movement. This movement was started by Bill Gothard. So if you don't know who Bill Gothard is, Bill Gothard, he is a white evangelical Christian, and he has very strict beliefs, and he was also a leader of the homeschool movement. And he was teaching people that your daughter needs to always be a girl. She's never allowed to be a woman, and she needs to live in your house, and she needs to live in your house all the way until she's married. And then when she's married, then she can move into her husband's house, but she's never allowed to have her own place. That's the Stay-at-Home Daughter Movement. You live in your parents' house until you get married. So even if you're in your 30s, you need to live with your parents until you get married. It's a rule that he had for the girls. And some parents believed that this was a good rule, okay? So my mom believed that this was a good rule. And I knew that this was a bad rule. I knew I needed to get out of her house even if I was single. So I graduated from Bible Christian College, and I was ready to move into my own apartment. And so my mom was feeling uncomfortable with me becoming a woman and with me having my own apartment. So what she said, well, I just want you to know that your dad is still the head over you, even though you are moving out of our house. And I said, no, I'm the head over myself. I'm ready to be an adult. I'm ready to grow up. I'm going to have my apartment. That is not my head. And then she said, well, she said that the concept of that was in the Bible. And I said, no, that's not in the Bible. And she said, well, the concept is there. But the bottom line is I moved out of my parents' house. I got into the apartment, and I began to live as an adult. Even though crazy Bill Gothard didn't believe in girls becoming a woman, a woman, he did not believe in girls becoming a woman. Well, I took matters into my own hand, and I decided to be an adult anyway. I had to grow up at some point, So I got married later, but here's the point. The point is that it is okay for a single woman to move out of her parents' house, even when she's not married. It's okay for her to own her own house. It's okay for her to move into an apartment. Women don't always have to have a man over her. I was taught that a woman needs to always have a man as a covering. No, that is a bad way of thinking. There's nothing to support that. So anyways, these are some of the things that I was taught growing up, and I just renounced it. I just don't believe these things anymore. So one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video, because there was this man by the name of Alan Purr. His last name is P-A-R-R, and he did a YouTube video about 5 things that Christian women should not wear. And he looked very, very stupid doing that. And it was not helpful at all. It was just very out of date, very judgmental. Women should be able to wear whatever they want to wear. And no matter what they wear, us mature people, we know that that's not a problem. It's just not a problem. It's her own business what she decides to wear. It's so immature to tell other adults what they can and cannot wear. Just extremely immature. So I just wanted to bring that up. I wanted to go against what this other YouTuber was doing, trying to tell, women what they can and cannot wear. So anyways, those are the things that I don't believe in anymore. I had to grow up and I had to get a life of my own. Just noticed something right there. But I had to have a mind of my own. I had to think for myself. And I'm still learning. I'm still growing. And I want to encourage other people to learn and grow. And let's just keep respecting each other no matter what. We need to respect each other. We are all human here, and we just need to respect and love and grow together. All right, I will talk to you later. Goodbye.